talking live from CPAC here. My name is Mike Bastash. I'm the Daily Caller News Foundation energy editor. And here with us today we have the newly confirmed EPA Administrator, Andrew Wheeler. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, there's been a lot going on. You just got confirmed, but you've been in charge of the EPA for almost a year now. And so what kind of things are you going to continue doing? What's like your agenda now that you're actually in charge?
Sure. Well, first of all, when the president asked me to take over the EPA, he said, keep cleaning up the air, keep cleaning up the water, and keep deregulating in order to provide more jobs for the American public. And he knows we can do all three. I know we can do all three, and that's what we're doing. We're moving forward with a number of deregulatory actions, but we're also reducing air pollution and cleaning up the water at the same time.
So a big thing you guys did recently is you just broke off negotiations with California.
Yes.
And a lot of the media has been talking about California saying, well, you guys didn't really have a solution. You guys weren't intent on working with them. But is that your perspective, or was California also, or
yes. First of all, California is just one player in this. It's not an even negotiation. They don't have the same footing that the United States government does. We're trying to set a standard for all 50 states, and we put forward our proposal. When we did, before we did, I sat down with Mary Nichols from the California Air Resources Board. She said that she would have a counter proposal to us within a couple of weeks. We waited 3 months before we got a counter, and the counter was the Obama proposal stretched out over 1 additional year, which isn't really a fair proposal. And she even said at the time, the outgoing governor hadn't signed off on it, the incoming governor hadn't signed off on it, the attorney general, who'd already said he was going to sue us, hadn't signed off on it, and she's the chairman of the Air Resources Board. She said the members of the board hadn't even signed off on it. So we were just at loggerheads where we just weren't making any progress, and we have to move forward because our new CAFE standard is going to reduce the price of a new car for the American public and save lives, and it's going to improve the environment at the same time.
Are you guys going to commit to freezing the standard? So we're talking about carbon dioxide standards for fuel, and the Obama administration wanted to raise them. The EPA proposal was to freeze them.
Yes, so the EPA proposal was to freeze them starting in 2021 for 4 years. We're going to be coming out with our final regulation in the next couple months. I can't say exactly what we're going to do because we're still in the pre-decisional phase, but the average age of a car on the road right now is about 12 years. It used to be 8 years. What we're doing is reducing the price of a new car by about $2,300. By reducing the price of a new car, they're encouraging more people to buy newer cars. Newer cars are inherently safer, they're better for the environment, so we're going to get those older cars off the road, newer cars, and it's going to be a big win for the environment and a big win for public safety. Yeah. California was only interested in CO2 energy efficiency. We're looking at public safety, lives saved, and a whole host of different criteria.
And so, right now, a big debate going on in Congress is obviously the Green New Deal.
Yes.
And it's pretty much the opposite of what you guys are doing. So, one, what are your thoughts on the Green New Deal? And two, would it actually be successful in, tackling climate change or reducing emissions at the level they say they can do it?
Well, if you look at their deal, and I really think it's not ready for prime time, if you look at their deal, it would shut down the U.S. economy, so that would reduce CO2 emissions. But I don't think that's what most Americans want. It would do away with aviation, do away with even cows. As the EPA administrator, though, I took a look at it, and I was really struck by the fact that they do not value having a reliable electricity grid. And a reliable electricity grid is very important for public health reasons to make sure that we have electricity to power our drinking water supply. And without an electric grid, you can't have a safe drinking water supply. When there's a hurricane or another natural disaster, EPA is one of the first responders on the scene. One of the first things we try to make sure is that we have electric grid up and running to make sure that we have clean water for the American public. And the Green New Deal just did not value that at all.
Yeah, and so, one thing you guys have done is you've really scaled back a lot of these regulations. So, and one thing you guys are doing is the affordable
clean energy rule.
Clean energy rule. There we go. And so what is that, and when do you guys expect that to be out?
Sure. It's it was proposed last year. We took comment on it, and we will finalize it this year. It replaces the Obama administration's Clean Power Plan, and the Clean Power Plan was really outside the law. It went outside the Clean Air Act. It was actually the Supreme Court did a historic stay where they stayed the regulation. And I'm accused of rolling back the Clean Power Plan. I don't think you can roll back a regulation that actually never took effect. The Clean Power Plan never took effect. What we're doing, which is apparently unusual, is we are following the law and we're following the Supreme Court decisions in crafting our Affordable Clean Energy Rule, or ACE rule. So we're doing exactly what Congress told us to do in reducing CO2 from the electric power sector, and we're doing it within the bounds of the law.
Yeah, and another thing is, one of the most controversial decisions of your predecessor was this thing called the Science Transparency Rule,
yes,
where they were going to make any science that the EPA used had to be made available to the public, and that was somehow construed as anti-science. So is that something you guys plan on following through on, and what are your plans with that?
We are absolutely going to follow through with the Science Transparency Rule. I think it's very important. My first job at EPA in 1991, straight out of law school, was working at EPA in the toxics office, the chemical office, and I worked on something called the Community Right to Know Act. I fundamentally believe the more information we put out to the American public, the more sound our environmental regulations will be. So we need to tell the American public what is the science we're using to form our regulations. We need to have it out there, that have the sunlight, that everybody knows exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it, and we're absolutely going to move forward with the Science Transparency Regulation.
Great. And so you guys, obviously EPA gets criticized in the media a lot these days, more so
Yes.
than I remember in the last 8 years, saying you guys are cutting back enforcement, you're cutting regulations, you're not doing enough to tackle chemicals in the water. So what do you think do you think these misconceptions are wrong, or what do you think the biggest misconception about how you guys run the EPA is?
Oh, it is absolutely wrong. We're protecting the environment, we're cleaning up the air, we're cleaning up the water. We just unleashed unveiled a new report, a new management plan a couple weeks ago to deal with PFAS and PFOA. These are chemicals that have been in the environment for 30, 40 years. They're the chemical that makes up Teflon, Scotchgard, Gore-Tex. And for the first time ever, the agency has put forward a management plan on how to deal with these chemicals. The previous administration did not do that. We're using all of our environmental statutes. We're addressing it under our water statutes, under our Superfund statute, under our chemical statute. We're having a multimedia approach to clean up the PFAS, PFOA chemicals wherever we find them in the drinking water around the country.
Yeah, and so another thing is the last administration, you guys are criticized for not putting enough emphasis on climate change, and you recently challenged some people in Congress about the level of threat you see climate change at. Do you think actually focusing on climate change, the Obama administration's focus on it, maybe actually hurt other areas of environmental protection?
Well, I do. For example, last year we cleaned up and either delisted or partially delisted 22 Superfund sites around the country. That's the most number of Superfund sites cleaned up in 1 year since 2005 during the Bush administration. These Superfund sites are toxic sites around the country. It's important to get those cleaned up for the people living around those communities. So yes, I think a number of things were kind of put on the back burner during the Obama administration because of their sole focus on climate change.
Great. You good?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.